What happens when two tasty tabletop treats go head to head? We're about to find out in this cake versus donuts edition of Little Big Thumbs. There are so many games about food that get made every single year, and recently we received two of them to review, and we're going to pit them against one another over the next few minutes. My name is JP, and you're watching Little Big Thumbs, a channel that's all about finding great games that are equally fun for little players and big players. The first of our two games is Icing on the Cake from FoxMind Games. It can be enjoyed with 2 to 4 players ages 8 and up, and games will typically last about 30, maybe 45 minutes. And our second game is Donuts from FunForge. This one is just for 2 players with games lasting about 15 minutes and is also recommended for ages 8 and up. Once we've given you an overview of these two games, we'll do a little comparison talking about their similarities and differences and which game is best for younger players, which one shines brighter for older players, and maybe which one will stand the test of time for both young and old. Now, let's head on down to the table and learn a little bit of how to play both Donuts and Icing on the Cake. Icing on the Cake is a competitive game of light strategy that can be enjoyed by some kids and adults alike. Each round of this game has 2 phases: cutting the cake and placing our tiles. The player with the knife card splits these Tetris-like cake tiles, and each player adds a section to their board. We're going to aim to place sprinkly edges on the outside of our cake board and connect same-colored cakey pieces. After 4 cake building rounds, we're going to score points for those sprinkly edges, deduct points for sprinkles that have crept into the middle of the cake, and also we'll get points for our largest clump of one color of cake. Next, we move on to icing our cake, following the same cutting and placing process. Matching icing and cake colors will earn us bonus decorations, and a full set of those decoration tiles will earn us a candle. Once iced, we score again in the same way as before, adding extra points for decorations and candles. The player with the most points wins the game and is crowned the master baker of the table. And now, let's learn how to play Donuts, a quick playing game for exactly 2 players. The playing space of Donuts is a combination of 4 tiles, which can be flipped and turned before each game to provide some variety. The only other components included in the box are 30 wooden donuts, which have chocolate on one side and vanilla on the other. Each player takes 15 donuts flipped to their chosen flavor, and then we're ready to play the game. Our goal in Donuts is to get 5 baked goods of our color in a row, either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. But making that happen might be easier said than done. The starting player drops a donut in any square. Each square indicates the direction the opponent must play in next. If all squares in the required direction are occupied, that player can place anywhere on the board, which can be a sticky situation, making each and every donut placement an important one. Now, the key mechanic in this game is called an insertion, it's kind of an inverse Othello or reversey. If a player places 1 or more donuts in between 2 donuts of the opponent, those opposing timbits switch sides, making for a major shift in momentum. The gameplay goes back and forth this way until someone makes that string of 5 donuts in a row to win the game. And that is just a little nibble of what it takes to play Donuts. Alright, we've learned the basics of these 2 games, and now it's time to compare them. As far as similarities go, beyond the setting of tasty treats and baked goods, both Icing on the Cake and Donuts are somewhat abstract in nature, and both require some spatial strategery to succeed. Both games are grid-based in nature, and both have this key strategic goal of clumping similar colors all together. And despite those relatively thin commonalities, these games feel like very different experiences. Icing on the Cake layers together several mechanisms, like tile placement, that I split, you choose element, and maybe even a little bit of drafting. Meanwhile, Donuts is essentially a buffed up variant of tic-tac-toe or Connect 4. 5. Both games play relatively quickly, but there's no doubt that Donuts is the much more streamlined experience. The rulebook for this game is basically a single page and barely requires any instruction to begin playing. On the other hand, the rulebook for Icing on the Cake isn't terribly long, but it does require slightly different considerations for each player count, and in that sense, it isn't perfectly intuitive. But being able to play with 2, 3, or 4 players certainly gives it tremendous flexibility. When we look at the components, the bits of Icing on the Cake, I'm immediately drawn to the candles. These things are simple slotted cardboard standees, but they stand tall in contrast to the rest of the flat components in the game box. And that's significant because those candles aren't easy to earn, and each one gets us 4 points at the end of the game. By contrast, Donuts features these chunky fried delights made of substantial wooden pieces. They're absolutely the best component in either game and really makes that one game, Donuts, stand up and come to life on the table. For younger players, Donuts absolutely has that lower barrier to entry. The box recommends it for ages 8 and up, but I could see kids as young as 6 or maybe even 5 being able to follow the basic flow of the game, even if they're not able to spot all of the strategic opportunities on the table. Icing on the Cake is also recommended for ages 8 and up, and I think that's a pretty reasonable estimate. My 9-year-old was able to outplay me in this cakey game in just one practice run. So if you're shopping for a player who isn't too far along in their gaming journey, Donuts is the clear winner. For older children and adults, Icing on the Cake has a lot more to dig into, even if the rounds feel a little repetitive by the end. There's a lot more planning and educated guessing going on, especially when we start layering our icing over our cake tiles. That's not to say that older players won't enjoy Donuts, because that has a real classic cottage game vibe. But if older players are looking for more complexity, then Icing on the Cake is definitely the winner. From a skills perspective, both Donuts and Icing on the Cake do offer the opportunities for skill building and sharpening and development. Donuts will help with abstract thinking and spatial awareness, whereas Icing on the Cake offers more logical thinking and planning, with some math required at the middle and end of the game. My kids did not agree on which game was better. My little bean, don't tell her that I'm still calling her that, definitely prefers Donuts, but my older child, my big bean, loves the puzzly challenge of Icing on the Cake. And when it comes to myself, I think probably long term I'm going to lean towards Donuts, because I just love a game that I can put on the table and start playing really without any kind of preamble or rules reference. We can just put it down and go, go, go. Both of these games are absolutely worth taking a look at, but always make sure to do your own research and figure out which game is really going to be the best for you. But hopefully this head-to-head comparison has provided something of a unique perspective. And I think that's going to bring us to the end of today's video. Thank you so much to the publishers for sending their games along for us to review, and thank all of you for watching this video. That's it. We'll be back again soon. So until next time, whether you've got little players or big players, make sure that you keep playing games that make your thumbs go way up. Bye for now.